We have got, wow, lots and lots of people, familiar faces and new folks to NSEAD. It's fantastic.
How exciting.
I've been saying that, you know, at all these sessions, it is like being at a football match as the turnstile clicks and people are coming through. So we'll give people a minute because it takes time.
Oh, look, the chat's up and running. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, Elaine. I'll try not to answer the hi Michelle. Hi Rachel. Hi Paul.
Hi Paul.
I'll see you later, Paul. Oh, this is lovely. Oh, all these lovely people saying hello. Goodness me. Hi.
Oh, brilliant. Hello, Peter G.
Hello, Wexford. Oh my goodness, it's going crazy. North Wales. Hello. Hi, Colin.
Well, the absolute joy of being online and not at Take Liverpool, which would have been sublime, of course, is that we can reach all our lovely, lovely community across the UK and internationally. And that's just a joy, it really is.
Well, what I'm seeing already here, we've got Dundee, Manchester, Cornwall, Birmingham, Yorkshire, Wexford, East London. And Liverpool.
Hey.
Liverpool are here, even though we're not in Liverpool, which we really, really wanted to be, didn't we? And Anglesey, Newcastle, Leeds, Essex. Oh, how exciting. Right, I'm ready when you are.
Right, I think we'll get started as people are coming in, because we don't want to waste a moment of your wonderful time, Janina. Okay, everybody, welcome to day 2 of the NSEAD Conference 2020. To those of you who are with us this morning, welcome back. To those of you who were with us yesterday as well, you're going to get tired of hearing me say, what a year. We've never had a conference like this one. But it is fantastic and it's brilliant to have you all here. Well done for getting a ringside seat for what we know is going to be an absolutely seminal keynote from our newest patron, Dr. Janina Ramirez. So we're absolutely honoured to welcome you, Janina. You don't need any introduction. These guys know all about you, but cultural historian, broadcaster, author, general warrior for the arts and education and history. I'm going to just, the quote I always use, and I'm talking about you, is where you say, there's one word that has appeared in every school and university report I've ever had, enthusiastic. I want to share this enthusiasm. So we can't wait. I'm going to give you some protocols, folks, and then hand over to Janina, just to say, please do put your questions in the Q&A box, or indeed the chat. We're going to capture them all, and we'll be asking Nina to come back after this session with answers to some of those questions. So keep an eye out across social media, and we'll be finding ways to share those answers with you. But actually in this session, we're not going to kind of go to that verbal Q&A. For those of you who are our special members who've signed up for the members session after this keynote, will be in conversation along with the wonderful Paul Carney. And just to say, we've got Sophie Leach from NSEAD here who's manning the chat. So if you've got any problems or concerns, put them in there and Sophie will do her best to help. So I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to start listening. Janina, over to you.
Hello, everybody. What an honour. I am nervous and excited to be joining you all. It has been an extraordinary few months, and all the plans we had to join you in the flesh have changed. But I am enthusiastic and optimistic because in the absence of having that physical conference in Liverpool, what we have instead is a global chance to connect. And that's something that's going to be coming through all that I'm saying today, is that we are poised at a moment of change, and we can change for the better or we can change for the worst. And I want to explore that in relation to this topic of why art matters and why history matters. Now, I'm going to get my PowerPoint up in front of you so we have some images to talk about. Oh, hang on. For some reason it's not moving back and forth. There we go. Right. Okay, here begins my thoughts on what we've been going through and how art plays a seminal role in it. We seem poised at a defining moment in history. As TERFs battle trans, Black Lives Matter clash with All Lives Matter, and a pandemic rips through the world, it feels as if we're standing at a point of huge change. Will demagogues be torn down? Will there be greater equality regardless of gender, race, class, disability, or sexuality? Will we finally take care of the environment? I don't have a crystal ball to answer these questions. I wish I did, but as an art historian, I have a crystal ball of sorts. We can observe the evolution of art and history for clues on how these developments are impacting our zeitgeist, our spirit of the age. At the very beating heart of current changes, we find art. Whether it's the tearing down of Colston Memorial in Bristol, and I will be talking about statues and this situation towards the end of the talk, or the use of rainbows to designate Pride Month. This is a visual age defined by the visual. And by engaging with art, we can understand what evidence will last as our present becomes our history. That is why both art and history matter right now. I think there's never been a more important time to study the humanities, but explaining the value of studying the arts remains a constant problem for you, for me, and for everyone out there trying to spread the message that art matters. School children can see the value of studying medicine and science right now, searching for cures to the pandemic and taking care of the sick. They're told how important maths, technology, and business studies are to the world right now as we try to write our economic axis. And our key workers have shown us the value of so many jobs, from lorry drivers to veterinary nurses. But where does that leave art and history? I was dismayed, but not entirely surprised by this Sunday Times survey that was conducted in Singapore. 1,000 respondents were asked what jobs were essential to keeping the country going. 71% said that artists were the most non-essential job, with doctors, nurses, cleaners, garbage collectors, and delivery people scoring highest as most essential. Now, of course, this feels like a very natural response to what we've all been going through at the moment. In the throes of lockdown, these people have kept us safe, fed, and alive. But why did artists score the lowest of all? For me, this goes back to a long-held belief that art is a luxury. As Leonardo's Salvador Mundi sells at auction for $450.3 million, and private collectors and stately homes hoard ancient masterpieces, the world of art can seem elitist, conservative, and exclusionary. When I was at school in Slough, I didn't even know the subject of art history existed. It wasn't an option for me. And of course, we've gone through some huge changes since we started the campaign to keep art history in schools, expanding into the state sector and giving more students the opportunity to study it at an earlier age. I got into art history because I wanted to understand the period I fell in love with most, the early medieval period, in a really three-dimensional way. I started crossing over the boundaries. I started off with literature and reading the Old English poems, but I soon found that really, in order to understand this time, I had to know about theology, I had to know about archaeology, even paleography, the reading of manuscripts. And it was on this journey to cross-disciplinary boundaries and understand the past that I encountered art history. And it struck me very quickly that that was the subject for me. And I think it's really important when we look at education, at the way we educate in the arts, to approach things in a cross-disciplinary and multidisciplinary way. If we wanted to try and encapsulate what has been happening over the last 3 months for posterity, would we in the future study it just by looking at things like papal edicts or government papers? Really, to understand a zeitgeist, a spirit of an age, we need to bring all the evidence together. And that is why I think that art has a really important role to play right now. What I discovered as a medievalist using art history was that it's a subject that doesn't just tell us what people of the past felt, what were the challenges and experiences of the past, but I also discovered a subject that was poised, ready and ripe for change. In the 10 years I've been lecturing at Oxford in art history, I have seen all the issues that are raising their heads now being played out among art historians in conversations. Art has changed. It is no longer just the realm of the elite and the stately homes. It is a subject that can bring in every voice. And as this conference topic is voices matter, all voices are valued. So I think art history as a discipline has learned to include many, many different voices. Now, I've got a picture up in front of you here of the Wilton Diptych. It's a personal favourite of mine. I had the wonderful experience of filming after hours in the National Gallery. And what's so strange in the gallery is that obviously all the lights go out, but they're triggered on sensors. So as you walk towards a particular artwork, the lights behind you go off and the one in front just starts to open. It's very surreal. And I came through this dark, part lit experience and found the Wilton Diptych in its cabinet. Now, the team I was working with needed to get a good shot, so we put a flat light across the top. Now, I have been looking at this image in reproduction and in the gallery for many, many years, but it was only in that moment when it was suddenly top lit that the real craftsmanship and symbolism of this piece came to light. The light caught, I don't know if you can see, but the Virgin Mary there and the Christ who's reaching out, both have these deep dish gold halos, and they've been incised. And what I hadn't noticed in any reproduction before was that the little halo of Christ has the crown of thorns carved into it. And it was only in this new encounter, in this new way of looking, that I saw this detail, which of course links to Christ's ultimate death on the crucifix. It was a moment that really brought this object to life. But what it's so extraordinary for me is that this is an actual witness of the past. So I told you that I started off my explorations into the early medieval period by going through literature, reading Old English poetry like Beowulf in particular. And often when I read literature, I'm reading it in a book, in a nice soft paperback form like this. It's often been translated. It's certainly been edited up. I feel very disconnected from the original text. But these artworks, they were there. So if this object could speak to me, it would tell me that it sat in front of King Richard II as he prayed. It's heard his concerns. It's been there. And we don't have people from the past necessarily to speak to us today, but artworks can speak if we interpret them correctly. And that is what the art historian can do. We can interpret, we can listen to art from the past, and also think really what our artworks from the present are going to say in the future. So, studying art and history, and a combination of both art history, opens our eyes to new windows of the past and the present and the future. But good news, it's also good for the economy. So here is a slide to show the impact of the creative industries in the UK. And you'll see from this that there is a huge change in how much impact the creative industries have had on the UK economy. So you can see from 2011 to 2018, this sector, the creative industry, had a 30.6% change. It gave 30.6% more back. It grew and it contributed. And there is so much within this sector that really is of value. So just looking down there, you can see advertising and marketing. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit in relation to the work of Barbara Kruger. Architecture, crafts, design and fashion, film, TV, radio and photography, a huge area of growth. Also hugely important, the computer game industry. IT, software, computer services, massive contributors there. Publishing, museum, galleries, libraries, music, performing and visual arts. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was at school, if I had said I wanted to pursue a career in the arts, I would almost certainly have been told by my teachers that it would not necessarily lead to a good job. And there were many other subjects I could study that would allow me financial security and allow me to be a good economic contributor. Well, this slide suggests that if children are fascinated by the arts, there are many areas that enthusiasm can be channeled and put to good use for the future. But I would say the biggest skill I have learned as an art historian, aside from research, which is essential right now, we have to be challenging and contextualizing everything that's put in front of us, is that there is a real need now for people who are visually literate. So I think art history is one of the most important subjects we could study at the moment. The world has become visually led. We are dependent on screens. Just look how we've all changed our working practices over the last 3 months. My infant children could navigate through an iPhone just intuitively because we are so led by symbols, by icons, and by what we see every day. That was definitely not the case when I was younger. The most visual stimulus I would get would be posters or maybe one of the few terrestrial channels and black and white photocopies. That's what I had to depend on. But as we've seen in lockdown, galleries, museums, they've been making their artwork available in high definition. It is so accessible now, the world of art, in a way it has never been before. But I think art history is so valuable now because we're visually led, but also because we need to be questioning the visuals that are in front of us. We are able now to be fooled by visuals. We can see videos that have been edited up to show somebody speaking words that they didn't really speak. And in fear of using the Trumpism of fake news, I think it is very important that we question the images that appear in front of us so frequently as we scroll through our phones or work our way through the internet. We need to be visually literate. And art history is the subject that gives you that ability to scrutinize, to really carefully pull apart a visual in front of you. It also makes you consider that very important issue of context. And that's what I want to be talking a bit more about now. Context is everything. Okay. So we're talking about how art and history can open up our understanding of past, present, and future. And when I say context is everything, I think it's a good example here in front of you. This is an artwork by Barbara Kruger, who is still an incredible feminist art historian who has made these striking images as a result of a lifetime's experience of working in different creative industries. She started out in advertising and in the media, and you can see that when she's developed her own distinctive style, she's included these sort of headline captions that have become so iconic of her. She's been ripped off over and over again, and whenever you see this font, this setup, the white lettering against the red banner, it's a reference to Kruger. And what is so interesting when we think about her approach to the world, here are a number of quotes by Barbara, and I think they're all quite interesting and apt given the world we're living in at the moment. I have no complaints except for the world. And this is a good one. I think what I'm trying to do is create moments of recognition to try to detonate some kind of feeling or understanding of lived experience. This is something I say to people who are trying to create art now. I'm one of the judges on a competition at the Ashmolean, which is asking for artworks for people who have been through the last few months of lockdown and trying to capture those experiences artistically. And the piece of advice I've been giving to all the artists is make it lived, make it experiential, really true art that speaks to us across time, connects us because it is both personal and revelatory about a really unique and personal experience, but it speaks collectively. It's an experience that others can empathize with, can put themselves in. And that is something that Barbara is trying to do in her work too. And as she says, she tries to bring the world into her art. Now, the reason I put these quotes up about Barbara is that in order to see an image like that iconic image, so your body is a battleground, there's so many of our own personal narratives we can put onto this image. And it all just depends on our personal experiences. It all depends on what sort of a viewer we are, who we are, but this artwork can be taken out of context. And if we think about the original way it was received, It was part of a poster. And it was a poster that was advertising in 1989 a walk, a march that was going to take place in support of legal abortion and women's rights. So when we see the art in its original context, when we can see it with the original text, with the bits that have often been taken out for it to have this more sort of iconic and broad-reaching version, it becomes something born out of a moment of need, where the art is a vehicle for change. And this is evident no more clearly than in the work of Paula Rego. So I can show you this image, this beautiful painting by Paula Rego. And you can see here a woman. She's in a rather uncomfortable position. Rego has used her distinctive pastel style to render the flesh, give it this sort of really incredible three-dimensional quality, but it's the face of this woman that is so captivating. It's strong and fearful. It's got this sort of pensiveness and resignation to it, but also the suggestion of action, that action is about to take place. It's a really powerful image, regardless of context. But when we start to know the context, the art history behind this painting, it becomes even more relevant. And yet again, it's an artwork that shows us a moment of great change, ideological change and political change, because Rego created that image as one of a series. They were called the abortion series, and again I'm relating it back to the Kruger image. So she made them in 1998 when a referendum to legalise abortion in Portugal failed, and when the second referendum was launched in 2007, the public opinion was so swayed by Rego's art that it changed the decision, and abortion was legalized, because what Rego was trying to show in her artworks was that in the absence of a medically safe environment for women, they were conducting these very dangerous, very painful procedures on themselves that really, really needed to stop. So her art became the catalyst for change. The art and the politics all married up together. And that, I think, also helps us to understand Rego as an artist. This is one of my favorite paintings by her. It's her angel. It's huge. And I had the pleasure of encountering it in the Paula Rego Museum in Lisbon. And when, having seen that series, having seen what a personal account Rego put together there, that brings a new level of interpretation to her other work for me. I can look at this image of Paula knowing she did it to actually show an episode of a story that she was illustrating, but it's become a self-portrait of sorts. And here you see Rego not as a victim, but as this sort of strong woman